Good afternoon and welcome to Snowy Valley's Extraordinary Council meeting of the 28th of May 2020. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land and pay respects to elders past and present. This meeting is streamed on Council's website to allow the community to follow Council debates and decisions. Members of the public participating in a meeting agree to have their image, voice and personal information, including name and address, recorded and publicly broadcast. Snowy Valley's Council does not accept liability for any defamatory remarks or inappropriate comments that are made during the course of the meeting. Please ensure that all mobile phones and other electronic devices are turned off or in silent mode for the duration of the meeting, and no recording of voice or images is permitted. Council is currently operating under the temporary provisions of Section 447A of the Local Government Act, which allows for online meetings, and the provision of the Act takes precedence over any conflicts with the adopted Snowy Valley's Council Code of Meeting Practice. Thank you, councillors. Do we have any apologies or leave of absence?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we have Councillor Cross and Councillor Larter.
Thank you. Someone moves that they be accepted. Councillor Smith, Councillor Ham, all in favour? Councillor Wright, Councillor, thank you. That's unanimous. Declarations of pecuniary interest.
Mr. Mayor, we may have one from Councillor Pritchard.
That's a non-pecuniary interest. My daughter is appearing in the Royal Commission into Bushfires, so I declare a non-pecuniary interest, but I'll stay at the meeting and take part in the discussion.
And will you be voting, Councillor Pritchard?
Yes. Oh, yes. Unless it, yeah.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Pritchard. So, councillors, it takes us to 5.1, 2020 advocacy priority. Councillors, we have 4 recommendations there. Do you want to move those, or do you want to move into committee first to discuss, or how would you like to take this? Councillor Ham?
Could I ask to move into committee, please?
Okay, only if you talk a little faster. There's a bit of a delay, Councillor Ham. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Wright. All in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. In committee, who'd like to go first? Councillor Ham.
I think it's great that we've got this advocacy plan up and going, be there as there's a by-election going along. And I would ask for people to look at our top priorities, which are very broad and covers quite a lot of the whole region. And then to scroll further down to look at all the other advocacy, which are probably a little bit more pinpointing specific areas and specific projects. Things like the Elliott Way and things like the Coorabye Road, and even the Lower Bago Road is all mentioned. So I appreciate the thought that's gone into this. The Snowview Estates in Tumbarumba, the aged care business case. I think this advocacy plan really does reflect conversations which have been having in the district.
Thank you, Councillor Ham. Other councillors? Councillor Smith first, then Councillor Pritchard, then Councillor Risselman. Councillor Smith, I've got no voice coming through. I've got you now.
Okay. The item roadside vegetation cleanup post fire has $2 million there, and I'm wondering if that really is sufficient for that item, because there is so much left to be done yet.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll refer to the CEO, Mr. Hyde.
Yep. Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Smith, That's the additional funds that aren't funded through our DFRA funding or our Section 44 funding. So there's been an estimate on what's not covered by the funding arrangements, and that is felt to be sufficient for what we are aware of. Certainly, if we come across some more issues, that may not be sufficient, but we do have to be reasonable in what we ask for, and that appears to be a reasonable figure.
Okay,
Thank
so-
you. Councillor Isselman?
Pritchard. Sorry, I thought it was Councillor Pritchard first. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
My mistake. Keep going.
Ladies go first.
Thank you, Councillor Pritchard. I'd just like to make comment on 3 of the project recorded. First of all, obviously, the Brindabella Road is going to be an incredibly important upgrade and significant to employment across the Shire in so many ways. It'll be hard to actually estimate what employment opportunities will be generated by upgrading that road, but I'm sure we're all aware of the fact that it's going to have a major impact on the access to our region from Canberra and vice versa, and it's a significant, important project priority. Lobbying support for the training and remobilising of skilled and unskilled workers. I'm very, very keen to hear how we are going to work that in with what is being perceived as the remodelling of TAFE. We have been devastated in our region by the closure of TAFE and the lack of access to training that our young people now don't seem to have, and they've got to travel to Wagga, and even what Wagga is offering is incredibly limited to what has been in the future. And it seems to me an unbelievable problem that when we are across Australia lacking tradespeople, we are closing our TAFE colleges faster than we can look at them, and our training of our young people is being held to ransom. And I think this is an appalling situation, and I really do think that we need to really investigate how we can lobby and link into the situation where it's been called to reformat and re-examine the position of TAFE right across Australia. And I think that's incredibly important. And the upgrade of the intersection of Snowy Mountains Highway, obviously that's already on the agenda, but we need to make sure that that's going to go ahead after the incredible tragic situation that's gone on recently. Wonderful effort in putting this particular document together, and I think it's important that we have a lobbying position in relation to all that's going on at the moment, and I congratulate staff for putting this together. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Isselman. Councillor Pritchard.
Can I just add to Margaret's comments? I was down at the Riverwalk yesterday, and there were a group of young kids, or not young kids, about 16, 17, 18 sort of thing, was just idly throwing rocks in the river. And I stopped and talked to one of them, and I was almost in tears at the end of it. They've got no idea what the future holds for them. They've not got any training at TAFE or whatever. It's so sad. And if we don't help them, we're betraying what's gone before us and asking for social troubles as well. So I think that reinforce what Margaret says. The only thing that specifically I was wanting to raise was the trail business at number 5. Just that we need to include the tree trail in connection with the National Arboretum in Canberra. We made some preliminary connection with them some years ago, but if we establish that, the number of people going to the National Arboretum in Canberra is quite phenomenal, and if we can connect up a trail with them, we'd get a lot of people coming through our area. Pilot Hill hasn't been damaged. Lochinvar Park, there's some green appearing in some of the trees up there. So if we can get those things to replace the Sugar Pine Walk and just connect it all together, I think it'd be a great attraction, permanent attraction from Canberra. When you come in at the Wee Jasper end, there's a magnificent couple of stands of Currajong trees along the limestone outcrops. Anyway, I think that should be included.
Thank you, Councillor Pritchard. I'm sure that'll be included in the plan.
Thank you.
I'm happy to have that there. Councillor Isselman, something else?
If I may, please. Quite outside of the listing that's been given there, one of the things that's come to my notice in very recently is that the Council with Climate Change of Australia has 10 councillors on it, and one of the councillors, Greg Mullins, is talking about having building somewhere within the communities that are highly affected by bushfire to be flame zone building. And I'm thinking this could possibly be something we can consider putting into our agenda here, in the fact that it may not be necessarily something we'll achieve immediately, but it would certainly be a priority in the future, where we could look for small communities, especially where they don't have a large number of people to protect them in relation to fire and such like. There could be a flame zone building built in small communities. And I think that's something we really could look at in the future.
Certainly, thank you. And look, whilst this list is extensive, it's not the end. It's not the end, and there will be lots of smaller projects and bigger projects like what Councillor Isselman just spoke about that can be can also be added or can be championed, not so much by council, but by various organisations, such as we've been able to do as a council. We've been able to source funds and allocate those funds to community groups to work with and in partnership. So they actually, well, they can apply for the funds, and we can assist them, we can back them up, and that seems to have been a model that we've worked with through this council, and has been increasingly successful. So whilst something mightn't be on the list, it may well fall under a broader sort of area. So something might fall in under tourism, and we can look at it there. So it doesn't mean that if it's not there like it's not written there, doesn't mean that it's not on our thoughts or a possibility into the future. Any other councillors? Councillors, well, do I have a mover to move out of committee? Councillor Wright, Councillor Isselman, all in favour? That's unanimous, thank you. Councillors, that takes us to the recommendations. We have 4 recommendations there. Councillor Wright. Councillor Isselman. Councillor Wright, would you like to speak to the motion? Still on mute, Councillor Wright.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I think I'm just proposing we just adopt the whole lot and put it out to the community, let everybody have a look at it and study it. And there's so much work gone into it, and like you said, there's probably still a lot more work that will go and can go into it along the time, but at least it gives us something to start with. I think it's terrific. Such a good document, so well done.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Any other speakers? Councillor Smith.
Comment on number 4, to adopt a complete list of projects for government policy support and or funding should the opportunity arise. I just want to make it clear that that is not a matter of excluding any projects that are not listed there, but that it is just a listing of some of the projects that have been put forward over a period of time for Council's consideration.
Didn't get all that, Councillor Smith. Some of it came through, but what I'm thinking you're working towards is that you're talking about point 4, which did you want some addition there, or what were you saying?
Sorry, I'm just wanting to make the point for the community's sake that this is not a complete list, particularly of things Council would want to be following, but neither should anything be considered left off for any particular reason, that any projects can be considered in future times. But this is just a list that
Yes.
we can work on, not excluding or particularly including anything, or to be read into that anything that's not listed there is therefore not on our agenda or something that we're not interested in supporting.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Any other councillors? Councillor Benjamin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question. With the projects listed, are they prioritised?
Through the CEO.
Through the chair, Councillor Benjamin, what we've done is we've included the P1 projects there. They're not in any particular priority order, but with the resources that we have, the idea is with the funding that becomes available, you have to be shovel ready for that. So that puts a particular emphasis on those projects to work them up to a point where when we apply for the funding, we can actually go immediately with those particular works. So the designs are done, etc. So we can't do that across all projects, and the idea is to concentrate on those ones. However, we do get grant applications that do open up that we can't necessarily anticipate. And for that, the larger list, we can draw on that if it's not in our P1 project.
Thank you for that, Matt. And I'd also like to thank the staff for creating this project list. It's fantastic, and we've got a pretty awesome list there to get through.
Thank you, Councillor Benjamin.
Thank
Anything further, Councillor Pritchard?
In our project applications, some of our projects run across different other government agencies, such as State Forests or National Park or Crown Lands. Do we make joint applications with them for funding on certain projects?
Okay, I'll refer that to the CEO.
Through the chair, Councillor Pritchard, what we are aiming to do with some of these projects here is an advocacy role to work in with those state government departments. And if that requires letters of support or partnership proposals, then we're prepared to do that. As you would see, a lot of these projects that have come up in this listing actually relate to particular industries, not specific for local government, but something that our communities definitely want to see progress. So we've listened to what's come through our recovery committees, our community advisory committee, and got those onto the list. And our idea is to work together with agencies about that.
Thank you.
Councillor Isselman.
Mr. Mayor, I'm wondering if the actual project description is going to be changed at any time. I mentioned earlier in reference to flame zone buildings and our emergency evacuation centre is mentioned here, business case revision, design and construct. I'm wondering if we need to expand on some of the descriptions so that we get what we want at the end of these projects, or is that going to be in the detail to follow?
Through the CEO.
Yeah, through the Mayor, Councillor Isselman. Yeah, look, this is just a brief on them. The next stage of the project is to detail them out. Councillors, we've had extensive discussions about what is included in these projects, and that will go into the next brief, and we will workshop those briefs as they progress.
Thank you. Anything further? I think by way of explanation, the point that Councillor Pritchard brought up, working with other agencies, probably an example of that would be the Talbingo boat ramp, which is about to happen, I assume, but that's working through Snowy Hydro, which is in effect the federal government, and also New South Wales government, and also possibly National Park. So that's one example of how we're working with other agencies. Councillors, I'll put the motion. All in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. Councillors, that by my business paper, that concludes the meeting. So thank you all for your attendance, and thanks everybody for watching.